Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you here to my question and answer on my Anastasi system of psychic development. I invited everyone here because, as you know, I'm going to be teaching my system again starting in just a couple of days on January 16th. And I know from all the things I've been hearing on Facebook and YouTube and from my clients and readings that a lot of you would like to know a little bit more and have questions that my emails just didn't answer. So I decided to host this question and answer session so that you folks would be able to present your questions to me. Let me explain how this system works. A lot of you aren't familiar with the GoToWebinar platform. On your screen, you're going to see little microphones that have a little X across them or a line across them. If you have a question that you would like to ask about anything having to do with the system, from how I came to start teaching it, to why I teach it, to what you might be able to get out of it, if you have a specific question, i.e. this has been happening to me, will the system teach me to control that? Any of those things, any question that you can imagine, I'm here for you tonight. We have about an hour of time, and I think in that length of time, I'm going to be able to field just about all of the questions that you can come up with, short of actually taking the course, which, as I said, begins on the 16th. So if you would like to ask your question verbally, you'll see the little hand that's in the first column next to your name. Click on that hand. And when I see the hand go up, I'm going to know that you would like to be called on so that I can call on you and you can actually verbally ask your question, kind of like being on the telephone with me, and I'll be able to answer it right back. If you're a little shy and you don't want to talk into the computer or into your mic, or if perhaps your computer doesn't have a mic, then you can ask your question in the section underneath where it says questions or actually chat down below. Type your question into the chat and Lisa will know that you have it and she will read it out to me. Lisa's my assistant, whom a lot of you know. And so I can still answer it, but you didn't have to verbally come on. And that's also a good point. I will be posting this on YouTube, as I do almost all of my videos, so that people who have similar questions will be able to hear your answers. And I may use some of those questions for promotions at some point in the future. So if you don't want your voice to be on the recording, then and I would only be, using your first name, so that's not identifiable. But if you don't want your voice on the recording, then type your question into the chat room so Lisa can read it out. Okay? Okay. I'm here for you. I'm ready. So if you have any questions, then jump right in. And until you guys get the hang of it, Lisa, I'm going to ask you if you would unmute your mic. I don't think you're helping anybody get on. I put Lisa to work in these webinars. She's always helping people to get on and off and figure out how to work their mics. But I need you right now, Lisa, because I think you and I can get this Q&A off to a good start. I'd like you to just talk to me a little bit about the questions that you have fielded from people, not just now, but over the years as they line up to take the psychic development program. What's the most common question that people usually have for you?
There are no common questions. They're all weird. I just want you guys to know that. Actually, there's no question too weird, too odd, too bizarre to ask about what you're going through. We actually did have one question in the chat room that I'll go ahead and answer. I've already answered her, but she's simply asking if you're ever going to do live training again. And of course, you do these classes one time per year.
Yeah, so actually, I would like to answer that a little bit more in depth, though. I have been teaching psychic development live, since 1979. That's a little giveaway on my age there. And I mean, it was constant. I haven't stopped teaching it since 1979. And until 3 years ago, it was entirely in the real world. At first, I taught in my home, and then I taught in centers, and then I taught in hotels, and the seminars got bigger and bigger. Then I started to train teachers. There are currently teachers all over the United States and Canada who are teaching psychic development to their students, and lots more throughout the world who just aren't certified but have still learned from me and are teaching. So it grew. It really grew. I've got teachers and programs all over the place. About 3 years ago, I decided to take the system online because my guides, everything I do, folks, is guided. Even when I'm with you right now answering questions for you, my guides are answering those questions through me. So it's always a combination of me and my guides. And 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they told me, Sandy, you need to take this system online because you cannot reach enough people fast enough in the seminars that you're leading in the real physical world. And of course, when they first told me that, I didn't understand it at all. It didn't make sense to me because I was pretty computer illiterate. So I put it all together, and here we are. We're now online with our webinars, and it worked. Whereas in the past, I had a handful of students that had a very, very difficult time coming to take the classes because they did come from all over the world. But they had to pay their airfare, and they had to pay a hotel, and they had to pay all their food for the 4-day seminars. And I did everything I could to make it more cost effective. It just didn't work. And when I'm online, I get to reach people any place they have a computer, which right now is just about every place in the world. And in their own home, they can listen, they can learn, they can practice with their neighbors. So it's really a matter of reach. So your question was, will I ever teach in the physical world again? Now that I'm completely online with the system, and it works, it's very, very good, it's very effective. I'm graduating people who are just as good at utilizing their skills as they were when it was totally in the physical world. It works. I'm gifted. I can literally, with the help of my guides, reach right through the computer to turn on all those switches you need turned on to be able to do the work that I'm teaching you to do, and that I'm reminding you of how to do, because you are all starting as psychics. You just don't know how to access it yet. That's what I teach you to do. Now, I will be back in the physical world, but guess what? In fact, I still am. I run the occasional cruise, which is for psychics. We have fun, and people who are wannabe psychics and aspiring psychics. And yes, I run that occasional cruise. We're planning land-based events soon, hopefully later this year. We are also doing still our teacher training in the physical world. So you're going to see me still in the physical world. I'm not gone yet. But the entire series, the whole 6 classes, that is something that I'm working harder and harder to get exclusively online. And of course, my books are available through Amazon, and my videos are available through several sites. So you can, if you really want to learn to develop your skill and your ability, you are going to have a way to do it using my program. Or if you don't take my program, folks, take somebody else's program. But if you want to develop your ability, do it. That's my mission. That's my mission on the planet, that everyone should develop their psychic skills. It's so important right now. And I do see a hand up, and thanks for giving me the moment to answer that question, because that was very complex. There was a lot of meat in there, so thank you. I've given that a lot of thought, and so have my guides. And I'm going to unmute Karen, who I see has a question.
Hi, Sandy. I was wondering how much, I know that it's 2 hours each week. How much other time is it for, like, I'll call it homework, but.
Okay. Now, again, Karen, thank you. Another very complex question. A long, long time ago, when I was learning how to teach, believe it or not, PE, physical education, I graduated college with the teaching certification in 5 subjects, but I went to college to learn to teach PT, okay, and not psychic development, physical, what do you call it, physical education. All the way back then, my teacher said to me, Sandy, always remember that you are going to get out exactly what you put in. And if you put in half a pint, then what you're going to get out from it is half a pint. If you put in 150%, you're going to get out 150%. So understanding that, I know that there are people who are limited in their time. Matter of fact, I think everybody in our world right now is limited in their time. If you're limited, which is one more reason to bring it online, okay, but if you're limited in your time, if you have lots of family obligations, responsibilities around you of all kinds, you work, which is really pretty much the conditions for everyone, you may not be able to put into the program the amount of energy and effort that you really want. So I am not going to lie to you and say that if you approach the program only by showing up for 2 hours a week for 5 months, that you're going to get as much out of the program, get this, as the person who shows up for those 2 hours, which will be webinars that I lead each week, and also shows up for the bonus practice sessions. There'll be one every 4 weeks. Every 3 weeks there'll be an extra bonus session. So there are 4 sessions per time. Those bonus sessions are not obligatory to get your certificate, but they are extremely important if you're going to develop your skills well. So that person who's going to get that 150% out of it shows up for all the webinars and all the bonus sessions. They also read the books. They also, get this, they also are going to get the live, the real world video, the one that was done in Miami. It's a video of a 2-day session for each class. So each video has about 8 hours of video, which you get 3 weeks to work through. And they watch it. And they work at home with their family and friends to do the practice. And they will practice meditating each morning and doing all the exercises that I put into the program. So if you're going to give the program that 150%, or at least 100%, let's be real, 100%, and you're going to do all those things that are in the program, it's work. If you go through and dedicate yourself for that 5 months to really doing all that work, I will guarantee you that you will come out the other end and you'll have psychic abilities and psychic skills, and you'll have changed your worldview in a way that right now you can only dream of. Now, obviously, not everyone can do that. Like I said, many of us work, have family obligations. Many of us have trouble coming up with just that 2 hours a week. So this is the reason why the program is taught through the books, through the videos, through the summary webinars I do each week, through the practice, and I brought it on a program online that you may know as Kajabi. It's similar to Teachable, and there are a lot of other programs similar to it. You will have your entire series of classes, the entire 5 months, including the webinars, the books, the videos, all of it will be in your own very private library online in the cloud. And you'll be able to access it on your smartphone, on your tablet, your iPad, on your computer. So it's a program that you're not only will you be able to access it anywhere while you're taking it, but you're also going to be able to access it for years to come. It will be permanently yours. It's not like it's just yours for 5 months and we take it away. It is yours. So what happens, you see, is you'll get to go through that program and you'll put as much as you can into it, understanding that if you only put your 2 hours a week to be at the webinar I'm doing live, and somebody next to you or even your partner online, because you'll have partners to work with, we have a Facebook group, so you'll have a real person actually practice with. And supposing your partner has got enough time in their life to do all of those things, well, obviously your partner is going to do a whole lot better faster than you are. You must not compare yourself. That's important. You're going to get out of it the first time around exactly what you put into it. But because you're going to have that permanently accessible to you, you're going to be able to go through the online portions, another reason for being online, at your own speed. It's never going away. You can tell your partner, hey, I've got all these other obligations. I can't work as fast as you. Will you, after the class ends even, will you keep working with me so that I'll have a partner and I can really go back over and over everything until I get it down the way you have? And you know your partner's going to say yes because it's so much fun. That's my job, to make your learning as fun and exciting as I can. So I don't want to scare you away by saying, wow, it's all this work, Karen. But yes, it is a lot of work if you're going to give it that 100%. But you can still do it with whatever amount of time you've got, as long as you promise yourself you're not going to compare yourself to everyone else who might have more time to dedicate. Okay? So, and also my programs attract people who are everything from experienced practicing professional psychics to people who just heard the word meditation yesterday. So there's a broad range of people in every class that I teach. So another good reason to not compare yourself to other people who are in the class. Karen, did that answer your question?
Yeah, most of it. I think the one portion I was wondering about was the practicing with someone that's one of your classmates.
Yeah.
How much is time is that? Because I don't. Is that like an hour a week? Is that
No.
2 hours?
Okay. Again, it's up to the individual. And I get a kick out of this because in every class, I will have at least one person who gets so excited about practicing that they'll go to Facebook and they'll say, I need partners. And they'll practice with everybody in the class every week because they just want to be on there practicing. But your responsibility will be to practice to do, for example, one telepathy exercise with your partner a week, which would involve about maybe 15 minutes of time. Okay? Now, the beauty of the Facebook usage, by the way, this is Facebook groups, so they're private, okay? Or as private as you can get on Facebook, but they're not open to the public. And if you have a dream and you're having difficulty interpreting it, you can put your dream on Facebook, and during the week, all the other people in the class will pop in and put their interpretation in. If you're practicing a particular thing that maybe you're developing your clairvoyance and you're really excited, or you have a question about something you thought you saw, just not in the class, but in your day-to-day life, and you write it on Facebook, and it's not just your partner who will answer you back. I'll answer you back. Lisa will answer you back. Also, your fellow classmates will answer you back. So our Facebook group, which will be active for the entire 5 months. And when you're done, when you've graduated the program, the Facebook group doesn't go away. You still have access to that group, but you also graduate and you have an access now to the graduated group. And so you have a community, a real live community of people who think like you, if that's possible. Okay, or as close to you as you can get. At least they also know that we live in a psychic world and you can talk about the things that you feel and that you see and that you've experienced, and you're not going to be looked at like there's something crazy about you. Okay, or if you're practicing a part of the program that you're just having trouble getting and you ask for any partner, not just your own that you had from the beginning, but any partner to come through and work with you, somebody's going to say, I'll do that. Okay? It's almost as exciting to have that group support as it is to be able to have somebody guiding you and teaching you. It's really fabulous. Karen, did that answer that one?
Perfectly. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, and this is what I want to thank you, Karen, because that's what this class or this webinar tonight is all about. Those questions Karen was asking are the questions that should be in everybody's mind, because until you actually take the class, you don't have any idea how any of this is going to go. It's not just learning about how to be psychic. It's all this. It's the whole technique that I put the class together. How does it work? We become like a family with one another, and we're very supportive. You do not have to, this is another nice thing, you don't have to let that partner into your home, okay? They live across the world. And you don't necessarily have to connect with them on the telephone or on the computer. You can, but you can also connect with them on Facebook. So you can be as close and intimate with that partner or as distant from that partner as you choose. And it's going to help you to develop your skills through whatever means that you're going to be doing that. Karen, unless you have another question, could you put your little green hand back down? Otherwise, I'll end up calling on you again. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I see a bunch of people who came online this evening, and we'll see if anybody, I guess everybody could be just here to listen and see what everyone else has to say, but I have a feeling you folks would not be here if you didn't have some questions of your own.
And some people are shy and they just don't want to talk.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
We do have a comment in
Okay.
the chat room that I would like to read out, because I know, Sandy, you're going to take the ball and run with it on this one too. So there's always something informative that comes out of these statements. It says, "Hi, Sandy. It's nice to meet you. This is my first time here, and I'm very new to this, both in spiritual awakening and psychic ability. I don't know what to ask, but would like to hear some insight from you. I have vivid dreams every night since the spiritual awakening and having visions, also sensations during meditation." And just so you know, this is Lily who wrote this, so that you can address her personally if you want to.
Okay. Lily, that was a great question. Thank you. And I just want to say that, first off, let's start with the dreams. This is not a dream interpretation class, okay? There are dream interpretation classes out there that are good. You might want to investigate. Some of them are even on my website. But this class is geared to giving you the basics of dream interpretation so that you and your fellow students can interpret those dreams together. And so there really is a good core for it. So a lot of those dreams you're having might be precognitive, they might be insight, they might literally be out of the body astral traveling dreams. It's tremendously helpful to be able to bounce those dreams off your fellow students, and also sometimes we'll actually go over them in class so that you have a way of learning how to interpret them. So we don't, like I said, it's not a dream interpretation class, but we do dream interpretation, because you see, dreams is probably the primary way initially that your higher consciousness communicates what it wants you to know. Because in the dream state, we're all open to that unconscious information. So until we learn to clear our mind and to tell the difference between our own thoughts and the thoughts that are coming in from the world around us, and the thoughts that are coming from our guides, that's another thing that I teach. Until we learn to do that, your higher consciousness and your guides have a rough time getting information through to you when you're awake. There's too much input, you see. So their voice is lost among all the other 1,000 voices in your head. When you're asleep, the airwaves are clear. They can give you information in a dream. So when you say ever since that spiritual awakening, you're having tons of dreams, you're having lots of, insights and psychic impressions, I get many, many, many accomplished psychics, and many people who have been psychic since birth, who actually come to me and say, "Sandy, I need to learn what this is. I need to learn how to control it. I need to learn how to step it up when I need to hear more, and how to shut it down when it's overwhelming and frightening." i.e., I need to be able to control the gift that I have and expand upon the gift that I have. And that is what the Anastasi system of psychic development does. That's what it's intended to do. You know, Lisa and I talk about this, and I honestly think I get just as many people who have no ability that they know of who come to my classes, i.e. rote beginners, as I get people who, like you, have awakened and have lots of stuff going on and don't know what to do with it. And I also get those people who have been really psychic from birth, some of them who have lived really difficult lives because they've had trouble telling the difference between the reality that we physically live in and the reality that their psychic senses gave to them every day of their lives. And so those people come to me to learn so that they can learn to tell the difference and learn to live in the real world like real, normal, ordinary people and still have the benefit of their psychic awareness. Lily, did I raise more questions? A lot of times when I'm answering one question, it stimulates a whole lot of additional questions. So that's why I'm asking, did that answer it, or do you have more questions now? And you can type that in the chat room for Lisa to read. That's okay. And in the meantime, while we're seeing if Lily has anything else she wants to contribute, is there anybody else? Lisa, you've got something for me?
Yes. I had to look up and see the difference between, so I'm going to get rid of these two.
Okay.
He said, before I came to the spiritual awakening, I had experiences of departed relatives coming to my dreams to deliver to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that, folks, that's a big reason. I ask myself sometimes, why have my guides told me this has to go big? Why have they told me I've got to take it online? I've got to reach more people. Why have they said that literally every man, this isn't just my dream, it's theirs too, every man, woman, and child on this planet must develop their God-given psychic abilities. We're at that point, we have to develop them. It's our next step in evolution. If we don't develop them, we've got some real hard times ahead of us. We need that part of ourselves to be rejoined to the rest of us that lives in the physical. Well, when you say about talking to, or having visitations in your dreams from deceased relatives, I'm encountering people in my client list every day who are having those visitations, people who never had them before and are having them now. I'm encountering people every day who are having the feeling of being watched, okay? And they turn around and there's nobody there. I'm encountering people who are getting these psychic impulses. Don't go in there, or go left right now. And to the point where it's so intense they have to listen to it. And they never had those psychic experiences before. So some did and some didn't. But more and more and more people are becoming aware. People are waking up and recognizing that there's more to our existence than this physical flesh. We are psychic beings. We're energetic beings. We're energy that exists here on the physical plane before we are a physical body. Our soul comes first, is a simple way of putting it. Now, your question, what's going on, or your comment, what's going on when you're seeing these deceased people who come to you in dreams? That just tells me that when you were in your dream life, for you, the psychic world was always very close. Now that you've had your spiritual awakening, it's even closer. It's right there. And for all of us, that psychic world is getting closer and closer. Why? Because as mankind evolves, and I mean, as an astrologer, which you folks know I also am, I can actually show it to you in terms of the Earth moving through the heavens. We're moving into that space which brings us into, I could give this to you technically, into what really would be the lower astral plane. We're changing dimensions. You can go online and read so many things and watch so many things on YouTube that talk about interdimensional travel. Well, our whole planet is moving interdimensionally. And as we shift into that next dimension, we don't feel any different, but all of a sudden we're more sensitive to energy. We're more sensitive to another person's emotions, aren't we? That's one of the reasons there's so much drama on our planet right now. We're sensitive to people who've passed. So for many of us, it can almost be like talking to them. You know, they're just a little more distant than the person sitting across the table from me when I'm out to dinner with someone. So it's really kind of, I don't want to scare you off and say, oh my God, I'm going to be surrounded by dead people. But communicating with people who passed on isn't really all that difficult. It's easy to learn. And if you are already having that communication in your dreams, Lily, there's no doubt that mediumship, spirit communication, if you want to use a fancier term for it, is going to be one of the skills that comes to you very easily and very naturally. But I want to emphasize it's coming to everybody. So why do when I'm out to lunch with Lisa, why do I talk to Lisa and not her deceased brother? Because she's right there and he's a little further off. He's in the distance. But if I wanted to talk to him, he's right there. He's one of her guides. Okay. Have I totally confused you?
She does have a few other questions.
Okay.
One of them is, does it mean I can really tap into my psychic ability? And the next one is it safe to do meditations on my own?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we are going to learn, matter of fact, when I do my psychic development tip, couldn't think of that word for a minute, for this month, it's going to be telling the difference between true meditation and what happens when you do a guided meditation. Because guided meditation is not true meditation, it's a form of hypnosis. And it has great value. So I'm going to discuss some of the value in that too. So don't miss that tip. It's going to be a good one. But honestly, one of the big things my students learn are various types of direct meditation, because true meditation teaches you to still your mind. And I told you a little bit about this in my last psychic development tip. The reason stilling the mind is so very important is because if you can imagine your mind to be like a still pool, okay, if I can keep that mind that still, then when another person's thought or feeling drops into it, it's like a drop of water hitting the center of that water, the surface of the water. I immediately know a thought that is not self came in. And then I can go and I can look at that thought and see what it is and know that that's a thought I picked up from another person or an emotion I picked up from another person. So the foundation, there are many foundations. There are many tent pegs holding our tent or teepee of psychic development up. But the primary tent peg that you get started with is learning how to still your mind. And I think of that as becoming a meditative personality. Now, that type of meditation is best done alone when there's nobody else to bother you. But you certainly don't do it when you're driving, just like you don't do guided meditations when you're driving. Anything that's going to take your attention off the road, you do not do when you're driving, okay? Or when you're operating any kind of heavy equipment. But certainly, you will be able to do your meditations by yourself at whatever time of the day you have time to do them. I'm going to fill up your time, but I'm going to fill it up in a way that is doable, where it enhances your life, not takes from your life. Okay? For myself, when I get up in the morning, I go through my little morning ritual, my little morning routine, which includes about 10 minutes of sitting still, empty mind, still mind meditation with my focus on the breath. If I can get 20 minutes, I do that. Usually it's about 10 minutes because I have a lot of things I have to deal with in the morning, like so many of you do. But my day starts out with that 10 minutes of focused meditation. Very often I do that before I'm even out of bed. At some point during the day, and for me it's often before I go to sleep at night, I do a chakra meditation. Now that, if you listen to my chakra meditation on my website, which you should because it's free, that's free. And it's a guided meditation. It's effective. It'll teach you to clean your chakras, pull greater energy through them. It's a great guided meditation. But you can convert that to a regular, real meditation by teaching yourself to do it. Walk yourself through it without Sandy's voice. Then it becomes a real meditation, and you really move the energy through yourself, and it's real, and it has fabulous results. And for me, I'll do that the last thing before I go to bed at night. It's kind of like saying my prayers, only that comes absolutely last as I drift off to sleep. Now, that timing may not work for all of you. You might meditate or do your chakra meditation at different times during the day. But what you'll find is that you can work it into your normal routine, and it becomes this extra thing that you delight in doing because it gives you so much more energy to meet the day with. So the thing about the psychic development classes is that they work because I'm giving you tools right from the beginning that you can see results with, that you can work with on a daily basis, that you can integrate into your life, that become part of what you do every single day. And because it integrates with your life in that way, your ability develops. And it's really kind of cool. I can remember when I was teaching a while back, I had a student say to me halfway through the psychic development level 1, she said, I'm enjoying the classes, but, I really don't feel like I'm learning anything psychic. I don't think I'm getting anything psychic out of it. I said, no problem, just keep doing it. It's probably affecting you more deeply than you realize, but even if it's not, if it feels good, just keep doing it. It's good for you. Well, we got to psychic development level 2, and she got a little bit more results. I mean, she could feel some energy and stuff. Psychic development 2 is all about learning about psychic energy. And she said, well, maybe I might be learning a little bit of something, but it's not what I had expected. But I'm going to keep going just because my friend's here. I'm going with her. And we got into psychic development 3. And here's this woman who had been actually doing the exercises. She'd been doing her homework, but she really didn't think she was getting anything out of it. And we do psychometry, which she had never seen or heard or anything about. And somebody handed her an envelope, sealed, okay, with a letter in it, and said, I'd like you to do some psychometry on this. And she held it in her hands, and she said, oh, this is so stupid. This feels like I'm just making everything up. And I said, well, go with it. That's how it feels. Really, it just feels like something you made up. And this is why you get to do it in these classes, so that nobody expects anything of you. You can just practice it, go with it, have a blast, and you either get results or you don't, but nobody's holding it against you. That's what we're here for, is to learn. So she said, well, okay, but none of this is going to be right. And she proceeded to tell this big, long story about what was in the envelope, about the letter that was in the envelope. And the woman who had handed her the envelope nearly fell off her chair. And she started to cry. And this gal stopped and said, what's the matter? And she said, open it, and read it. And what she had just done is not only had she almost read that letter line for line, paraphrased it a little bit, read it, but she had also filled in the whole background of the story. Okay? And here's this woman who had just had her love life totally blown open, and it was all in that little letter that this other gal in the class, who didn't even know her, didn't believe that she had any ability, you see? And that's pretty much how it works. It's so subtle that you almost don't even know anything is happening until one day you suddenly realize that all these miraculous things are happening around you and to you, and you're like, I did that? And yeah, you did do that. But it's because your ability develops in such a subtle way. It becomes integrated with yourself and everything that you do in life. And I think I answered that question. Is there any more to it, Lisa? Did I miss anything?
Just someone in here saying they can't find the chakra meditation. Whomever you are, because I can't see your name, but I think I may know who you are. Just email me later, and I'll tell you how to get to it. It's right there on Sandy's site.
Yeah, it's the site is a new site, so for people who are coming to it for the first time, it's easy because they haven't seen the old one. But for people who were seeing my old site for a while, the new one's a little bit different. It's just different enough that you stumble over it a little bit. So that's not your fault. Lisa will help you. She's great at that. Okay. Does anybody else have a comment or a question?
Lily said, "Thank you very much. It was very helpful."
Thanks, Lily. And Karen raised her hand again. Yeah, Karen, what have you got to say or to add, or what question do you have?
When will the site be open? Like, we'll start getting things to for the first week.
Okay, I'm not sure what's downloading yet, but I think that I think I actually could turn it over to Lisa. This group is going to be building out the online program. Okay, and so we're going to be on the leading edge of it. Okay, but I think when you first come into the class, and we have to get together, I think, with my IT person. Lisa may already have done this, but it'll probably be something like a week before or 2 weeks before the class that you get the video and the book so that you can start looking ahead with it. But the webinar will not appear up there. The weekly webinar and the practice sessions, they won't appear up there until after we've actually done them, because we're going to be, like I said, on the leading edge of it.
Okay.
Okay, and as soon as you join, I guess right now Lisa's already gearing up to invite people to the Facebook group and things like that. We already have a pretty good core size group. The group is never large. Okay, that's another thing too. You go. I'm not going to mention any names, but you go to some big, real world webinars, or they're not webinars, they're seminars, and there'll be 500 or 1,000 people in the audience. And when it comes to psychic development, if you have, and this is my understanding, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it doesn't work nearly as well, because my job as your instructor, or your guide, better way of putting it, your guide through the system, is to help you kind of maintain your balance, raise your consciousness, stay in the right focus to be able to make the connections. So as I'm working with you, whether I'm in person or whether I'm online, doesn't matter. If you've ever had a reading with me, you understand what I'm talking about. If you are tuning into how you feel right now, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to be reaching right through whatever device we're using, and I'm literally going to be tapping you on the shoulder energetically and teaching you, okay? Helping your energy to come into the right alignment to take that next step. Now, I can't do that with 500 or 1,000 or 3,000 people. I'm good, really good, but I'm not that good, okay? My guides could do it. So, I'm not going to say that there's nobody out there on the planet who's leading those big, big, big seminars that's not having that effect. I think, though, that to do it with the over a 5-month period long intensity to develop on the level that we're going to be developing on, the group really needs to be smaller so that every person can be, we use the term touched. If you understand what I'm saying here, the only way I can put it is touched. It's an energetic connection that's made. And it's not that I get into your head. Please don't think that. I do not believe in that. Matter of fact, I train my teachers to not do that. It has nothing to do with manipulation or control. It's more of a kind of like you feel the energy and you follow it, and it leads you to that next level. But it's because I've created a connection. I've created a route that you can follow. It works. I can't do it for 1,000 people. I can do it for maybe 30, 35 people. So our group won't be a large group. It's a small group. It's an intimate group. And I only teach it once a year. Okay, it starts in January. It goes through May or the beginning of June. And then we won't start the next group until the following year. So that's why it's so important. If you really want to do this, if it's been something that's been in the back of your mind for a long time, if I'm the person that, your own inner energy says, I want to study with that person, stop wasting time. Find a way to do it. I know it sounds like an expense, but when you look at how much you're getting, it's very inexpensive. Okay, so spend some time thinking about it, but not too long, because I'm going to cut the class off at probably like 30 people. So we're getting there. And Karen, did that answer your question? I know I have a tendency to answer more than you ask for.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was all probably in the back of your mind, and my guides just kept running with it. And you'll also find that when I'm teaching, a lot of the time, like here we have a lot of people who are quiet. Even though you're quiet, you're still getting your questions answered, because although it might seem like I'm wandering and meandering a little bit, that's because my guides are answering the questions for the people who haven't verbally asked them. I always think that's kind of fun when they do that. Are there any other questions? Okay, Shirley, I'm going to unmute you. Here goes.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there.
My question, I know we talk about turning stuff on and kind of learning to deal with that, but I'm in the healthcare field. I sometimes feel like I need a filter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that something I want some stuff to come through, and
Absolutely.
the stuff that wears me out, tires me all day?
Yep.
Is there something like that as well?
Yes, and that's ongoing. I'm going to tell you a funny little story about Sandy, just so that you know that just because I've been doing this for 38 years doesn't mean I still don't have something to learn. For years, I've been telling my students, after they graduate the classes, a lot of them start to actually do readings professionally now. Whether you do or you don't is your own business, but you will have the capacity to do that if you should so choose. Well, I always tell them, if you're working at like a psychic fair and you're doing reading after reading after reading after reading after reading, you can literally get like stuck open, which is what you're talking about, this feeling of being bombarded by the energy, right? And I've always told them, when that happens, if you're feeling like you're having trouble shutting back down, put a hat on. So Shirley, try putting a hat on.
Okay.
And I can remember when I was coming back from psychic fairs that I would be in the car on the highway, and man, it felt like the car was flying. I couldn't even feel the ground under my tires, and I'd put a napkin, sometimes a paper napkin even, on top of my head, just to remind my upper chakra, close down, you're done doing readings. And it made such a difference in grounding me. Well, I had forgotten that lesson. Still was teaching it to my students, but had forgotten to do it. And I'm driving along. Lisa and I and some friends were driving to Orlando for a buying show, a gem and mineral show. And I'm in the back seat freaking out because I know what's happening on the road, you see. And I know when somebody's going to change lanes, like 2 minutes before they change, I know what's going on. And not that the driver of the vehicle wasn't tuned in, but she wasn't reacting when I was first feeling these things. She was waiting until she needed to brake, right? And I was like, ah! Because I knew it was coming. So I'd be freaking out in the back seat, and all of a sudden I realized I need a hat. Put the hat on, and all of a sudden the drive was smooth. I was no longer picking up what all the other drivers were doing. So you see, it's a simple little technique. The thing is, there are sometimes, I'm going to teach you how to do all this stuff with visualization as well. I'm going to teach you how to manipulate your own energy and shift it to where it doesn't get affected. But for all of us, there are always times, like me in the back seat of the car, so relaxed that I was too wide open, that you will also need some physical world aid. And I can tell you what those things are and how to do them and how to use them. And so can Lisa. Lisa is a wealth of information. Lisa will be in the, bless her heart, she'll be in the chat room like she is tonight in every single one of our weekly webinars. And what you might be afraid to ask me, you can ask her. Or if I've got too much going on, you can't get a word in edgewise, you can ask her. Just like tonight when she jumped in and said, oh, I can send that to you and you'll know exactly where to find that. Lisa's absolutely amazing. I'm approachable. You can write me and ask me questions and I'm going to answer them. That's another thing too, I answer. But you also have Lisa, who is basically, she's my assistant teacher. And that takes, that means that I'm not just dividing my space and my time between 30 or 35 people. I'm dividing my space and time with somebody to hold that 10 post and keep it going and strengthen it, and that's Lisa. So we make a good team when we're teaching. It works very well. Okay, I think I answered that question. Or
You did, thank you.
You're welcome, Shirley. Good question, thank you. Okay. And has anybody else thought of something that they can't live another moment unless they get an answer to? We do have a couple of more minutes before I have to turn into a pumpkin and get off the line. Okay, my guides play games with me. There is somebody here whose name is Punky. And I think you have a question. So I'm not going to unmute you because if you wanted, you had raised your hand, I think. But if you do have a question, stop being shy and type it in the chat room so Lisa can ask it. Because I can't imagine any other reason why I would be talking about turning into a pumpkin unless it was because you needed to have some answers given. And while we're waiting for her to type her question, if she has one, are there any last minute questions? I could go on like this all night. The class is exceedingly comprehensive. Not going to go on and on about myself. You guys already know a whole lot about me. But something you may not know about me is that I come from a very technical background. I said I graduated college with certification to teach 5 different subjects. What I didn't tell you is they were all sciences. My background's all science. I was essentially pre-med, so I have teaching certification in chemistry and biology and physics and earth science. And I'm not saying that to intimidate you. I substitute taught in them. I never really taught in those areas. The point I want to make is that my mind is grounded and scientific and technical. And so when I come to the psychic development field, I come to it with the attitude that this is the experience. It's real. So why is it happening? What's happening? Energetically, what's going on here? Let's find a way to reproduce that result and give you an idea of how the system was developed. Let's find out how to control that result. let's find out how to be true psychics. Okay? To me, the psychic world is not, it's not foo-foo. It's not weird. It is the world. The psychic world is the real world that we live in. And the physical world is a very pale reflection of it. Everything begins in the psychic world. And modern physics is beginning to discover that, which is kind of exciting. So the things I'm teaching you work, and they're proven. And they are scientifically based. They are not woo-woo. Okay? And I'm just looking to see if there are any more questions. Okay. I see a question mark next to Lily, but I don't think that's another question. I think that was just something that got hit along the way. Okay, folks, I have a feeling that we are done with questions for the evening. Lisa, before I sign off, is there anybody in the chat room?
Nope, we are all clear.
Okay. And I want to say thank you very much for giving me an hour of your time this evening, folks. I hope I've answered those questions above and beyond what you wanted and needed to have answered when you came here. And I dearly hope that I see you in my class this January. If not this January, maybe next January, or maybe you'll study, do a self-study at home. And if you don't study with me, if you want somebody in person in the real world, see if you can't find another Anastasi system teacher who is teaching in the real world. And if you can't find one of them, then find somebody that you deem trustworthy, who's local, who can teach you. Okay? But get off the fence. Learn. If you cared enough to come to this webinar this evening to learn to develop your ability, that tells me that it's important enough to you to really do it. So, it's time. Good night and happy New Year to everyone. See you soon.